knock another one out. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to RE2. The OG RE2, to be more clear. Memories are funny, aren't they? The Lord Runner has talked about many times about how he'll go through something and he'll be like, this isn't as good as I remember, right? Well, that's the OG RE2. What's funny is that in many ways I was wrong about the whole RE4 not really having tank controls. It doesn't RE4 doesn't feel like it has tank controls. But maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Back in the day, hey, I did play the original Resident Evil trilogy. Not so much 3, but I definitely played 1 and I definitely played 2. And 2 was one of the ones I fell in love with. But going back through, I realized something very disheartening. From a gameplay perspective, RE2 is not as good as I remember it being. And I also came to realize I don't like survival horror as a genre. I think that's one of the reasons why I was one of the very, very few people, possibly one of the only people, defending RE6 as not being as bad as people were making it out to be. But then, because survival horror, I know some survival horror fans are going to want to shoot me for this, but I've never, from strictly a gameplay perspective, I've never found survival horror to be that interesting gameplay wise. Because the idea is to make, because survival horror is the idea is make it piss us weak, make the enemies take way too much health, so they're bullet sponges basically, and make it so that survival is the name of the game. It's actually one of the reasons why I prefer the remakes, because the remakes actually try to mitigate this somewhat and make it so that now it's more about strategy rather than being strategic with your resources rather than just the enemies are all bullet spongy and if you have a kill everything mentality, you're fucked. It is very similar in the remakes, but it's less as strategize or be fucked, and it's more, yeah, it's, you might have to go back, right? And to be honest with you, the fixed camera angles mixed with the tank controls and the horrendous aiming in these ones is kind of what screws everything up. I think that's actually what made RE4 work is you could actually aim your damn gun and there were actual mechanics in place that actually made combat fun and there was actual options that allowed you to that helped you, it helped you conserve ammo, which is hilarious because RE4 is the game where you will get ammo out the goddamn wazoo. Oh, and the fact that RE4 also has dynamic difficulty, meaning if you're doing well, the game is actually going to will actually increase the difficulty on you. Not to, it'll suddenly switch you to professional. No, 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 no. What I mean is it'll bombard you with more enemies, more. The better you do, the more enemies you'll have to deal with. The more you start sucking, it'll actually decrease the enemies and be like, okay, let's ease up on them so that they can actually get through and enjoy the story. I'm not a fan of the limited inventory. This is one of the worst This is one of those offenders of backtracking. Uh, you know. Oh, there's some cool boss fights in here. I won't lie. Some of the enemies are kind of irritating. Hitting the map is not very good at all. In fact, I would argue it kind of sucks. There you go. You want an example of a map that I don't like? RE2's map. Ugh. Good music, but and good music, good itemization. I don't like how saving works in this game using the ink ribbons. I've never liked that. Even when I was a kid, I hated that. Um, the room with all the liquors can go to hell. I hate the plant monsters. The lab was a freaking irritating area. I hate dealing with bugs. I hate the flow of the exploration. I hate the B scenario's final fight. It can go to hell. And I also hate that when you're low on health, your character starts limping, which means your movement speed is actually decreased the more you lose health. That's awful. That's even worse than raspberry jam in my opinion. Because the raspberry jam just makes it so that it's harder to see, but if you can actually but if you get lucky, you can actually do some good stuff with it. This is just, oh, you're running low on health. Well, here, let's make the game even harder for you because screw you. Yeah, this is probably going to be a fairly short game video because meh. I both like and don't like the enemy placement. I know I'm just rapid firing these, but at the same time, it's like there's not much for me to say, really. You know? The voice acting was both good and bad to kind of transition to story. Um, yeah, no. There's I'm not going to go over individual details, so there isn't actually going to be a spoiler section this time. Wow, this is really short. But instead, what I want to talk about is I want to talk about the Resident Evil story kind of in more broad general strokes. See, Resident Evil storyline has always been, I would argue the Resident Evil storyline has always been what has attracted me to Resident Evil, right? I like Leon and Claire's characters. I like their interactions with Sherry. I like seeing Umbrella's corporate greed bite them in the ass in more ways than one, including them basically getting defeated off screen, as Leon informs us in RE4. Um, you know, I like the idea of reading the notes that characters leave behind, so you can kind of help, characterize people that are already dead. That's actually kind of a nice touch and one that I've always liked. Um, I got to be honest with you, who I've never. How do I phrase this? I've never honestly kind of liked RE2's presentation of the story. I get it, PS1 limitations and whatnot, but I don't know. Some of the story beats can just frankly go to hell, like what happens with Sherry. I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to. I really don't. All I'm going to say is I'm pretty sure Sherry is at best like what, 12? 12 if we're really highballing her age, and yeah. Ugh, that is completely fucking messed up. The Birkins are a messed up family. The whole 9 yards. Oof. It is interesting to see the dynamics, and it's very interesting to kind of see the differences between Leon in specific here in RE2 versus how he is in RE4. The bottom line, though, is if you want a better portrayal of Leon with better voice acting, by the way, in my opinion, because now, okay, in RE4, I actually prefer his voice acting to remake 2. But if we're talking, OG RE2's voice acting versus uh, Remake 2's voice acting, Remake 2's voice acting hands down. Well, okay, at least for Leon. When it comes to Claire, I'm kind of more iffy on, if I'm honest. But I would have to actually go back and kind of re-experience it. I will say Chief Irons is more of an asshole in the remake, but that's beside the point. Because here in OGRE2, Leon is a hell of a lot more gullible than he is in the other one. Because in the other one, he is kind of naive, but you can see he's starting to piece things together. By the end, he still trusts Ada, but again, that's more his naivete more than anything else. And as we see in RE4, I mean, we'll see how it happens in the remake. In RE4, he does wise up. In the OGs, he wises up between games. In the remake, he starts to wise up towards the end. Not fully. He's still naive, but at the same time, it's still better than here. No, it is not like that. I am totally gullible because I am that much of an idiot. Also, I didn't buy the budding romance between the two, and Ada's final scene can go to hell. That's literally all I have to say because it's like, wow, really? I told you guys this would be a short one, and as I said, this is a short one because I guess I didn't say it would be a short one. I guess I should expect like this is actually shorter than my Shredder's Revenge one, and that was just because I was like talking about how kind of trying to talk up different aspects of it. But with this one, I just don't have a lot to say because there's not a lot to say. There is some good external continuity, and I kind of like how this plays up for going forward. But I got to be honest with you, I don't think I'd have a lot to say about the storylines of Resident Evil unless I was reviewing 4. And there I would actually that if I ever review RE4 someday soon, hopefully, probably not the year you're watching this this year because I'm recording this at the beginning of 2023. That's how late I am to this. Probably not this year, but at the same time, who knows? Because I enjoy RE4, and honestly, I could easily see that being a DGOS stream. The Wii version, of course, because as fuck the hate for Wii, hate for the Wiimote and motion controls. Wii version's best version. Don't at me. At me. Okay, that is. I am being facetious because let's face it. With the possible exception, like there is a definitive version. I know, but at the same time, there's no version that I would say is outright a butchered port. Not really. There's some ones that are not as good as other ports. Like I would actually take the Wii version over the PS2 version any day of the week, and I could see somebody preferring the HD versions. There isn't really too any truly terrible version of RE2. Sorry, of RE4. But there are terrible versions of RE2. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't see myself ever. I will return eventually to RE2, and that's just because I did Claire A, Leon B. So at some point I will do Leon A, Claire B. But of course, I'm just knocking out a video on this now because there's no point to me doing a video on it when I go back through Leon A, Claire B, because I don't see very much difference happening at, enough to warrant me sitting down and turning this camera on again for talking about the OG RE2. The remake? Sure. But this? This version? No. So why did I bother with this version? I couldn't find my copy of Remake 2. And that is the reason. Someday I will go ahead and I will just review Remake 2. And on that day, I will do another video on RE2. But for now, I hate myself for saying this, but stick to the remake, guys. And I am sorry for the short video once again. The next two are going to make up for that big time, though, because the last two games I have to talk about are Xenogears and Legend of Dragoon. Yeah, if I'm talking for less than an hour about either Xenogears or Legend of Dragoon, there is something wrong. Very wrong. I can understand lore taking less than an hour to talk about those two, if he, ever did Ruminations again, but no. If I'm talking for less than an hour on those two, there is something very wrong. I apologize for the short video, but that's it. I talk until I'm done. That's the format, guys. I guess that's all I have to say. I guess I could. I mean, what else is there for me to say? I could talk about how so many scenes are literally just exposition fiction. I mean, I don't want to get any further into to Leon and Ada's romance because it's not that great. I will admit the final line from Leon in the Leon B scenario was actually well played. Hey, game over. And it's like, yeah, you know. And I talked about the low health limping. I don't have anything else to say, guys. It's OGRE2. I don't have anything else I can say about it. I liked this game once upon a time, but to be honest with you, this is one of those games that hasn't aged well. Makes me worried about certain other games. Now, granted, I can name several PS1 games that I would give much higher scores to than the Lore Runner did. And hell, we'll be talking about two of them in the coming in the coming weeks. In the last 2 weeks of season 1 of Wolf's Den. But of course, I'm not going to be recording those tonight because it is already uh, late, and yeah, let's not risk any of that. So, I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts on the OG Resident Evil 2, and I will see you all next time for Xenogears. Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one.